We're always dazzled by what AI can do, right? But behind every single smart algorithm, there's this massive, usually invisible, amount of work. Today, we're going to pull back that curtain and look at the real workhorse of AI, data preprocessing. Let's get into it. In the world of data science, this is basically the golden rule. Garbage in, garbage out. It's a really simple idea. It just means that no matter how brilliant your AI model is, if you feed it bad, messy data, you're going to get bad, messy results. It's as simple as that. And that's the core problem preprocessing is here to solve. And believe me, it is not a small problem. Some studies show that data scientists can spend up to 80%, that's 80, of their time just cleaning and getting data ready before they even write a single line of model code. That's how critical this stage is. So, what does this whole journey actually look like? Well, on the left, you've got raw data in its natural wild state. It's chaotic, it's got missing pieces, it's totally inconsistent. Our whole goal is to transform that mess into the clean, structured, beautiful data set you see on the right, something a machine can finally understand and actually learn from. Okay, so our journey starts with the first and, honestly, the most important step, the great data cleanup. Think of this like basic data hygiene. It's all about setting a solid, reliable foundation for everything else we're going to do. In this stage, we're going to have to tackle 3 big hurdles. First, just cleaning up the obvious errors. Second, figuring out what to do with all those inevitable gaps in the data. And third, deciding how to handle those really strange values that just don't seem to belong. Let's start with a really simple example of what data cleaning actually is. Now, to you and me, USA, United States, and USA obviously mean the same thing. But to a computer, nope. Those are 3 completely different things. Cleaning means finding all those little inconsistencies and standardizing them so the machine sees them as one thing and one thing only. Next up, missing data. It happens all the time. What do you do when a cell is just empty? Well, the easy path is deletion. Just get rid of the whole row. But that is super risky because you might be throwing away a ton of other valuable information in that row. The smarter path is something called imputation, where we intelligently fill in that blank, maybe with the average value for that column, or sometimes with even fancier statistical models. And then you've got outliers. An outlier is just a value that's so wildly different from everything else, it makes you do a double take. Imagine you're looking at employee salaries, and they're all pretty normal, and then suddenly you see an entry for $10 million. That's an outlier. Could be a typo, could be the CEO, but either way, we need a plan for it. So, how do we find these things statistically? Well, one common way is the z-score, which is great if your data looks like a nice, neat bell curve. But a more flexible, more robust tool is the IQR, or interquartile range method. It doesn't care what shape your data is in, it just looks at the range of the middle 50% of your values to figure out what's normal and what's not. All right, with our data all cleaned up, we can move on to Act 2, giving it a model-ready makeover. This part is all about translation. Taking our human-readable data and turning it into a purely numerical language that a machine learning algorithm can actually work with. And right away, we hit a huge challenge. Algorithms don't get words like red, green, or blue. They only speak one language, and that language is numbers. So the big question is, how do we convert a category like color into numbers without messing up its meaning? Picking the right way to do this is so important. A simple method called label encoding might turn red into a 0, green into a 1, and blue into a 2. But do you see the problem? This accidentally implies that green is somehow greater than red. To avoid that trap, we use a much safer technique called one-hot encoding. And here's what that looks like in action. Our single color column gets exploded into 3 new columns. If the original color was red, the color_red column gets a 1, and the others get a 0. This way, the computer knows exactly what the category is without making up any false relationships between them. But we're not done yet. The next big hurdle is scale. Imagine you have a column for age that goes from, say, 0 to 100, and right next to it, you have salary, which goes from 0 to maybe a million. Because those salary numbers are just so much bigger, a lot of algorithms will just assume salary is way, way more important than age. So to fix this, we have to put all our features on a level playing field. One method is called min-max scaling, and it basically just squishes everything into a set range, like 0 to 1. But a more common and often better option is standardization. This one rescales all the data so its average is 0 and its standard deviation is 1, which makes it much less sensitive to those outliers we were just talking about. Okay, time for our final act, crafting a leaner, smarter dataset. Now we're moving beyond just cleaning and translating. We're going to start actively improving our data by making it less complex but more powerful. There are really two main ways to reduce this complexity. First, you've got feature selection. You can think of this like trimming the fat. You look at all your original features and just keep the most important ones. The second way is dimensionality reduction, like PCA. This is more like a complete remodel. It actually creates brand new, super condensed features from combinations of the old ones. Now, if you're selecting features, you have a few ways to do it. Filter methods are the fast and simple option. They just rank features on their own. Wrapper methods are way more powerful, but also slower, because they use the actual model to test out different combinations. And then embedded methods are a great middle ground, where the feature selection is just built right into the model's training process. And for that complete remodel approach, the most famous technique by far is PCA. To put it simply, PCA just finds the angles in your data that show the most variation, the most information. Then it projects all your data onto this new, more compact view, essentially compressing it while losing as little information as possible. So after all that, the cleaning, the transforming, the refining, we finally get to the payoff. Let's wrap up by talking about why all this painstaking work is so incredibly important and how it's what takes us from a messy spreadsheet to a real, powerful insight. So here it is, the entire pipeline in one shot. We clean it, we impute it, we encode it, we scale it, and then we select our best features. It's only after we've gone through all of those steps that our data is finally truly ready for model training. And this is maybe the biggest takeaway of all. It's not always about having the fanciest, most complex algorithm. A simple model that is fed a beautifully prepared data set will almost always beat a super sophisticated model that's been fed garbage. The prep work is often more important than the algorithm itself. In the end, that's really what data preprocessing is. It's the bridge. It's the critical link that connects the world of raw, messy, chaotic data to the world of clear, meaningful patterns that power pretty much every AI system you interact with. So I'll leave you with this question. The next time you see some AI making headlines, what's the first thing you're going to wonder about? My guess is it won't just be the algorithm, but the invisible, perfectly prepared data that made the whole thing possible.